Hi, I'm Maria, and something that really shifted for me during this course, in terms of understanding the development of psychopathology through an Adlerian lens, is the concept of life tasks. So before this course, I usually just thought of the life tasks as what areas of your life do you need more focus on, like the life task wheel. So I would use that with either myself or with clients, and say, how are things going in this category? How are things at school? How are things, in love life? And, use that as a tool to create goals for treatment plans. And I think that's still a good use of the life tasks, but I did not view it in the way, um, of how we talked about it this unit, or this over the course of different units. So now I understand that life tasks can also be seen from what life task is this person avoiding, through their pathology, or how are they using their behavior to guard them from different life tasks. So, for example, like the Betty Ford case that we talked about, she had there could have been, or there likely were, a lot of factors that contributed to her alcoholism and substance abuse. Most likely genetic, since her father and brother were an alcoholic. However, through an Adlerian lens, since all behavior is purposeful, even if that behavior appears harmful, um, it's all purposeful. So I would say, that Betty Ford was using her addiction or alcoholism as a way to escape from the reality of her life tasks. And I think something important to note is this isn't always done on a conscious level. So this is something that they've just learned to they realize they're not prepared to deal with their life tasks, and this is their brain just kind of says, nope, we can't do this. So, the shield goes up and they need to escape. Although it did seem like, um, after watching the documentary, it seemed like Betty did have some awareness into this, because she made some comments saying things like she would first she took those prescription pills to relieve physical pain, but then she continued taking them to escape emotional pain. So that's showing she has a little bit of insight into, she was using them kind of as a, um, as maybe, yeah, there would say like a useless, side of life coping mechanism. So, um, she was basically protecting herself from facing challenges that were too difficult, because she was discouraged. And she said in the video, she said something along the lines of, I hated feeling crippled, so I took more pills. So just a vicious cycle. And, um, and I think it's interesting because it's a common, or I believe it's a common perception that a lot of people think, you know, um, well, I can't make friends, or I can't go to work, or I can't do this or that because I'm an alcoholic or I'm an addict, and this whole thing is ruining my life. It's controlling my life. And I think many therapists might spend time trying to set treatment goals that are focused on, okay, how do we get you to work? How do we get you to make friends? How do we solve these problems, which is good. But I think when you come at it with the individual psychology lens, you aren't going to be able to get the client to engage in those life tasks until they understand that they're using their, behaviors to avoid them, which kind of is difficult for me to process because it sounds a little bit like you're blaming them, which I do not think, well, anyone chooses to have a mental illness, and no one chooses to have alcoholism. So kind of butt heads sometimes in while I'm reading the text with Adler, but I think I agree with that basic principle of unless you address these like underlying demons, any progress you make is only going to be superficial. So, um, and then lastly, the other contribution that individual psychology makes in regards to these life tasks. Um, I thought this was interesting that in one of the discussions, I believe it was actually the schizophrenia unit, but we mentioned that Dreikers had a different take on it, and he, this was now referring to like psychotic behaviors, but he said those with psychotic behaviors, they're not actually trying to avoid life tasks, but rather they are engaging in life tasks just like everybody else, but actually the problems that I'm sorry, the solutions that they come up with, they just aren't on the useful side of life. So they end up being, ineffective, destructive, and then they end up seeing, well, these aren't useful, and then from there they seek some sort of significance through psychotic behaviors and thoughts. So that's kind of where Ted's case came in there. Um, yeah, so that is what I've learned, and I think I also can definitely use it for my own self-awareness. Just thinking, okay, even if it's not quite as an extreme case as either of these, just say, am I using something to avoid one of these, my life tasks? So I think it's really helpful. Thanks.